Okay, so what we have here is a failure to communicate. I did a film on this yesterday, doing the cam spacing and stuff, and my memory card was full. So I got it all spaced, but alright, so we're running this new cam cover. I got an oversized bushing for the old cam cover, so I will film that. I have half a case that's good, an S&S case that's good, so I use that because they're all the same, right? And I'll line bore that in on that, and I'll film that. So this bearing held really nice, it lined up really nice, everything's really groovy on it. That cam bearing. And what I have here, now originally, I don't know if I stated this, originally I was going to run an Andrews cam, but I liked it better for this other engine that I'm doing. And I had this 561 S&S cam in the 96 that I'm doing. Oh, no, can you see that? No, you probably can't see it yet. Yeah, it's right there. And I came across, I think it was an EV72, which is good for like 92 inch and up. And I thought it's some really nice shape, and I thought, oh geez, I'll run that one in the 96 because it's more suited. And this one is good for 80 to 96. And I know they put their 561 in their 96s because I work on my buddies, the great Norwegian warrior, the Viking. I work on his, and that's what he has in his, and it's totally respectable in his S&S engine. He's got an 89 Springer Softail. So, yeah. So basically, on this year evolution, you can go from 1 thou end play to 50 thou. I ain't a 50 thou end play kind of guy. I like to get, somewhere respectable, like a Shovelhead cam, in around 8 thou. And Shovelhead cams, you don't get that much play. Early evolutions, you don't get that much play. I think it's 1 to 30, and now 1 to 50 on these 93 and ups. So what I have here is I have my dial cam, that crane setup I was using, and I like to use it. So just make sure that your thrush washer goes in. It's there against the case, and then you run your spacer, right? Now you can buy kits from your local supplier. That's like their multi-washer kit or spacer kit. I bought, when I was going through my spacers, I saw a package that said 85 thou on it. So I grabbed it. I figured, what the hey? There must be a reason why I bought a package of 5 instead of a multi-package of 85 thou at one time. And lo and behold, they were 93 thou. That's a difference. That's a big difference. Because I measured them with my calipers. I thought I lost my calipers the other day. I had taken them out of my shop and forgot. I left them in my woodworking room. And I panicked. Well, they're Mitsutoyas. They're like $300 to replace. But they're my right-hand man. They're my right hand. I use them all the time. And I used to tease my brother, the Duke of Earl, on always using his calipers. Right? I like to bug my brother, but I don't know if you can see these. I've cammed in I've I've spaced in a few cams. So anyways, I had to go through all these cams to find the right cam. I didn't want it too close. I wasn't trying to obtain 1 thou clearance, because I don't like that either. Just because of any kind of mishaps. So what what everybody tells you is, if you can, use your used gasket. Now, different companies make their gaskets differently. So, I don't know where the old gasket is. I think it was a Harley gasket. It's a little different. I used James. And I know James, this beaded gasket I got here, has a 7th thou squish. And once the engine heats up and that, she'll settle in. All gaskets do that. They compress. But heat and cold and heat and cold. And so you never want to go too tight with a fresh gasket. Now, if you say you have the old gasket and the new gasket you're putting on is the same company as the old gasket, then use your old gasket and then you don't have to worry about the squish. It's already squished. But this squishes in like 7th thou. So I didn't want to be too close. Now you don't have to have like a gauge setup that I got here. You can use a feeler gauge. Yeah, let's see if I can zoom you in. I'm getting a little better at aiming this thing, I think. Famous last words, of course. Let's get you in here. This is stands imported all the way from China. You'd think it would work better, hey? Okay. Oop. I know. Boomer tech. And there's something else I want to show you about this that I'm going to go deal with. And it's an old hop-up trick. Actually, it's a safety trick, all right? So like in here, oops, where did I go? So in here, okay, so you got your thrust washer. See if I can separate the spacer here, right? So you got your cam in and you got your spacer. I can move that like that, yeah. So you can put a feeler gauge in between those two to see how many thou clearance you have. That works just fine. You can also use your calipers. Once you get your cone on, you can use your calipers and you can just move your cam back and forth and measure with your calipers and a straight edge. So there's always more than one way to skin a cat, right? Oops, wrong way. There's always more than one way to skin a cat. You don't need to see my dirty floor. And of course, you want to torque the cover on so it's in its torque spec. Now I don't have the breather gear in here. I don't have none of the pinion stuff, and that's something I'm going to show you. I believe I have the technology to show something. Might be hillbilly technology, but it's technology just the same. And for young fellers, the longest screw goes here, not here. All right. So let's get some screws in. I don't have any digital torque wrenches. I don't use them. They're big, they're bulky, they're expensive. I got no reason. Now a guy that's working in a dealership or something may want them because you can, when you're doing your torques, it records it and then you can upload it onto the work order via the computer, right? Oh, makes sense. It's nonsense, but it makes sense. That way, nobody can accuse you of not torquing something properly. I know I have a battery ratchet drive too. I hate those things. I just don't groove on that. But you know, everybody has their own gig. So like anytime you're dealing with a 1/4 inch bolt on these things, standard, if you don't have the specs or whatever, standard 7 to 9 foot-pounds. I believe this cone on this year is 12 to 15 or 11 to 13, something like that. I'm just going to go 9 inch pounds, 108 inch pounds, I mean. What's 108 inch pounds, Al? You figure it out. It's 9. Okay, so let's get this. Once I flick the flick. Alright, so we're torqued in. So whatever measurement I get on this, I have to subtract 7 thou. And that's my 0 mark. That's 0 clearance mark. So I'm just bringing this baby down. See if I'm coordinated enough to do this morning. And you just get it on the end of the cam wherever it suits your fancy. Alright, I'm going to push this in. Make sure it's in all the way. Okay. Zero it up. So, give it a couple taps, make sure I'm zeroed proper. Touch loose. Okay. And then just bring the cam out. And what do I got? I got 11 thou. Yep, 11 thou. All right. So 11 minus 7 is 4. So that gives me about a 4 thou clearance there once that gasket compresses and settles in. So I know I'm safe. Super important. Super important. So let's just take this baby apart here for a minute. What we're going to do now, I'm going to show you something about these newer models. And they started, oops, that's pretty funny, eh? Where did I put the ratchet? Oh, where did I put the torque wrench? It's here. Oh, there it is, over there. So I'm going to get Mr. Silicone bike here all. And don't forget to take your torque off your torque wrench every time. May seem boring, but if you forget it, it weakens the spring and blah blah blah. That's what I love about Snap-on, because they got the torque bar right on the entrance of their doorways when you get into the van, and you can just double check. And you always want to check a low, medium, and high end of your torque wrench. As they always say, you know, the mid-range on your torque wrench is supposed to be the most accurate. And Snap-on, I know a lot of guys rebel on that, but when I was doing this professionally, or for a living, I needed Snap-on. And I needed a good dealer. And Snap-on is only as good as its dealer. But it's so expensive that I can get this just as good as just as that. Well, whatever your wish is, buddy. If you plan on using the tool for years and years and years and need reliable service, I'm a Snap-on guy. No doubt about it, that's for sure. 100% guaranteed. Okay, so we got our clearance. And that's the most important thing. You know, a lot of guys say, well, I used to use gasket, but I ended up too tight. Well, yeah, because you had a Harley gasket with metal in the middle, and it compresses different than a beaded James gasket or whatever, right? Two different companies. So just keep your eye open on that. Watch out for that. Now here's something else I want to show you. Because this stuff was damaged. Oh, I'll pull this off here. This stuff was damaged bad. Well, I believe I showed you guys. I had to cut off the oil pump drive gear and stuff. Now, on the earlier models, when they first started going to this key, I'll just bring that up. That should stay. And I'll just see if I can't zoom you in again. Ooh. I'm not even touching it, it's floating around. I don't know if you can see this, but there's a single key in here. And so what they started doing was they ran a single key that shares the worm gear. Whoop, where am I? The worm gear. Sorry, man. Okay. Maybe if I hold it like this. So the earlier models, I think it was 90, when they went to the non-tapered pinion shaft, this would be an earlier model with 3 pieces. And I think the later models, they just extended, I think it was the pinion gear, no, they extended one of the gears, and then it was 2 pieces. But here's the problem. You're sharing 3 pieces, so you've got your cam, right? You got your cam, and you got your oil pump drive gear. And if you got some performance in that, you can get backlash, and it can break that key. I've seen it happen, dude. Now that the old pinion flywheel I gave to my buddy there to play machinist with, I'm going to go down and see him here today. What we're going to do, I thought I still had one from the old days. But what we're going to do is we're going to cut this. We're going to cut this pinion shaft off, the old flywheel, and then I am going to, I got to get that off of there before I can put this on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the shaft. I'm going to install these 3 things like so. Who do I want to install? And I'm going to have because the oil pump doesn't take as much force, so I'm going to have my TIG welder weld this spacer to this pinion drive gear, or this cam drive gear, whatever you want to call it. And that way I'm just down to the 2 keys. And this one doesn't get like the lash, you know, you're just running 4 small gears in the oil pump, so it doesn't get the lash. But this one here, and so if I'm only partially getting onto the key with that one, I can get more of the key by TIG welding. By TIG welding the 2 together, having a longer neck. And that way I'm at least, you know, more than half over that key, and it shouldn't break. But right now, you know, I'm just catching less than half. Right. So this way I'll have the 3 on there. I got to get that key out of there. Yeah, I forgot to do that, which is cool. I'll go get this TIG welded, and that way, because we're going to have 10-to-1 compression pistons, you know, performance cam. So I don't need this. I can't do it. I can't do it. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. And get that backlash and break the key, because I'm not on the key. Oops, like I should be on the key. I don't know why they went to a single key instead of the dual keys that the old flywheels have. Let's see if I got a. Let's see if I got to the Matza here. Just for the young fellers that never seen it before. Like Tommy's got 2 keys. Right, he's early evolution. He's 80s. Like he's early evolution. I think he's 1984. So here's a. So here's an earlier one. So this would be like your Shovelhead. Right? And it makes more sense, hey, having 2 keys in, one for one gear and one for the other, so they don't pull back and forth on each other. But you know, I don't know, maybe they save 3 cents per key or something to keep the price down on Harleys. Did I just say that out loud? Keep the price down on Harleys? Well, that's an illusion. So just, you know, don't be in a rush when you're dialing in your cam, or you're spacing your cam, I mean. Spend your time. But I'm really glad I checked the, I'm really glad I checked the spacers there. I pulled out a package to say, hey, you know, I think this is what I need, an 85. What did we settle on that? I don't think I went 85. I went, where are my verniers? Where are my calipers? What did I settle on? A spacer on that one. So what I like to do, what I like to do is, I'll leave my verniers off, and then put, when I'm measuring in, then I turn them on, and then I go down. So I found an 86.5, and that was in my pile. That wasn't from the bag. They were 93. So that's what I got. That's going on the cam. I don't want to lose that baby. It's like a religious event, spacing things out. Never be in a rush. Always find your zen. Find your zen before you rent your motorcycle. And you are going there. You and you are going here. Like so. There we go. There we have it. So what I'll do is I'll go get that other pinion shaft, and then I'll have these 2 pieces welded together. Then I'm covering, you know, a good 60 to 65% of the pinion shaft, or of the key, so that it doesn't break. At least that's what we used to do back in the day. It's hard to believe that the 90s was like, you know, 30 years ago or something. Woo-hoo. So that was the other thing I just wanted to show you on that. So I'm getting that done right away. This is done. She's ready to rock. So what I'm going to do is I'll get this all together. I'll get the oil pump in. Then I'll get my tappet assembly on. And there's these little line-up tools. They're a little tapered bolt I use for doing these. And the same one you use on these Then I'll show you guys the same one you use on these, you use on twin cams to line up your oil pump when you're working on the Twinkie. Yeah, this is nice. Ooh. She's tight, but she ain't too tight. No, she's just perfect. Perfect. Alright. What else? Was there anything else I was going to give you guys today? No. So yeah, use a feeler gauge if you have to. Use your verniers, which you just run a, when it's on there, you can just run a straight edge across. Put your calipers on there, measure it, kick it out, measure it again. And like I say, what I like to do with my calipers is I'll measure something, then I'll turn them on. And then I'll measure again. I like to do things backwards because, well, I'm just a guy, man. I was a sweat hog in the 70s in school. So I'll put these backward. I don't want to frickin' lose them again. I have another set of Chinese ones, but they're okay for general stuff, but I don't trust them when I'm doing actual, measuring bearing clearances and stuff. I like my Mitsutoi. Okay, that's just for that. I'm gonna get this thing, I'm gonna get my short block done. Then I'm going to line board Tommy's. We're going a little more bearing, there was a little more wear on his. And on his bushing there. So we'll get Tommy's done. I'll probably start with an 80 grit on that because I'm going after, a good half thou, just over. So, 0.0006. So I'll start with an 80 grit, and then when I start to just get close, when I see the case fitting onto the bearings, just say about 30% of the way, then I'll switch over to my finishing compound. And it takes time. So yeah, I'll get the short block done. We'll get Tommy's short block done. And then we'll get into some heads and rockers. I guess that's it.